Okay, in this PowerPoint presentation, we are going to look at subject-verb agreement. And I like this illustration because they get along. Subject and verbs in a sentence must agree. If you have a singular subject, you must have a singular verb. And plural subjects need plural verbs. So singular is one, plural is many. So look at this. The person, a singular person, the person waits. The people wait. So there's a basic rule that a singular subject takes a singular verb. A singular subject example is she, Bill, car. And an example of a singular verb can include is, goes, shines. And let's look at this sentence and how we're going to use that. The list of items is on the desk. Since we know that list is the subject, then we will choose is for the verb because list is singular. Sometimes people will confuse this and think we're talking about items and choose are, but actually our subject is list. And it's one list. So in that case, since it's singular, one list, we choose the verb is. Okay, let's look at this example. A good student knows the value of communication skills. So we have a singular subject, a singular student, and the student knows. Okay, so let's look a little bit closer at this subject-verb agreement. Notice if there's no S ending on the noun, that indicates that it's singular. And this is a little bit tricky, but an S on a verb indicates that the verb is singular. So if there's no S on the subject, you will want the S on the verb. Okay, let's look at some more examples. Now we've changed this up. We're talking about multiple students. Good students knows the value of communication skills. No, we actually, since this is students, students know. So in that case, we will take the S off. We call that, if that happens, like in that example I just showed you, that's subject-verb disagreement. So if your subject ends in an S and the verb ends in an S, that is a disagreement and we don't want that to happen. Notice here. So if we have a plural subject, we need to not have the S on the verb. Okay, the words each one, either, neither, everybody, everyone, you can see the list goes on, are considered singular and require a singular verb. Let's look at this. Each of these hot dogs is juicy. Now, sometimes when we look at this sentence, we might think, oh, we're talking about hot dogs. We're talking about more than one hot dogs. So I need to use the verb are. But let's dissect this sentence a little further. The subject is each. Each is juicy. Everybody knows Mr. Jones. Notice that does not end in an S, so we have to have the S on the verb. Either is correct. Okay, so there's a basic rule. A plural subject takes a plural verb. The plural subject, they, boys, cars. And then an example of plural verbs are, go, shine. Let's look at this example. The cars on the lot shine. So if you know that cars is the subject, then you will choose shine for the verb. Now, if this was singular, we would say the car on the lot shines. So do you see the pattern here that if our subject has an S, if it's plural, then our verb is not going to have an S. But if our subject is singular and does not have the S, then our verb is going to have the S. So there are some special agreement rules. When the subject is made up of two or more nouns connected by the word and, use a plural verb. She and her friends are. Okay, since we have this connector word here of and, that makes it plural, more than one, so we have to use are. Okay, now look, we had the word and so that meant more than one. But here we're using the word or, so it applies a singular or a singular. So when the subject is made up of two or more singular nouns connected by or, we use a singular verb. The book or the pen is. So in this case, we say the book is, the pen is. And or is reflecting that they're singular because it could be either one. Okay, so again, let's look at our special agreement rules. So here, when the subject is made up of a singular and plural nouns connected by or, the verb should agree with the part of the subject that is the closest to it. So make sure you look here at these drawings. Okay, the president or his assistants. Okay, president is singular, assistants is plural. We need a plural verb because the subject closest to the verb is plural. Notice here, verb agrees with the closest part of the subject. Okay, let's look here. Let's switch this around a little bit. Remember, we're wanting the one that's closest to the verb. His assistants or the president runs. Okay, assistants is plural, it comes first. President is singular, so we're going to use the singular verb. Now remember our rule, if we have a singular subject, does not end in S, then our verb, the singular verb, does end in S. Look over here at this first one. Assistance has an S, so our verb does not have an S. So I hope you're seeing the consistency in that pattern. Okay, sometimes it's easy to get misled by phrases that come between the subject and the verb. And here's some examples. One of the boxes is. Okay, our subject is one. Sometimes people might think we're talking about multiple boxes and need are, but we're not. We're talking about one. One is. The people who read that report are. People is plural, so we need are. The team lead, as well as his developers, is. The subject of our sentence is team lead. Okay, so the team lead is. We would not say the team lead are. Let's look at this example. The manual, including all the chapters in the first section, is. Okay, if we take away what's in the commas and we just say the manual is, we wouldn't say the manual are. Sometimes it can be confusing because we have the word chapters, meaning multiple chapters, but we have to remember to look for that subject of our sentence. The woman with all the answers sits. Woman is singular. Woman sits. If that was women, it would be women sit. Again, remember that S rule that we've looked at. We have something called collective nouns that refer to a group. These are almost always singular. That can be a group, a team, a committee, a class, the family. The family is going on vacation. The class is going to have an end of the year party. The committee is going to meet at 2 o'clock. The team is going to play in the tournament. Now let's look at what if this was plural? What if it was teams? Then we would say the teams are. But in this case, talking about one team, it's singular, even though the team is made up of many players. There are some nouns that are always plural because they're made of two parts. And I like this picture here as the example. Scissors, tweezers, trousers, that's another word for pants, pants, and shears. So shears are like a curtain that hangs on your window, and it's usually made up of two panels, the shears. So in that case, we would say the scissors are in the drawer. The tweezers are in the medicine cabinet. The pants are sitting on the bed. So with the nouns, they're always plural, made up of two parts, then we're going to use the word are. Okay, let's say you have a sentence that starts with the word there. In a sentence starting with the word there, the subject usually follows the verb. There are many questions. Our subject is questions, so our verb has to be are, since our subject is plural because it's more than one question. We would not say there is many questions. Okay, we might say there is a question, but there are many questions. Okay, so here's what I just talked about with you. There is a question. Notice here the subject is after the word there and it's singular, so we're only going to use the verb is. The same is true for the word here. Usually the subject follows. Here are your keys. Okay, our subject is plural, many keys, so we have to use the verb are. Here is your key. We're talking about one key, so we have to use the verb is. So anytime you see sentences with here or there, look at the end for the subject and see if the subject is plural or singular. Okay, let's look at these examples and see if we can fill in these blanks. In class, I would have you answer, but let's just look at these. These flowers, blank, so pretty. Well, these, that would be more than one. So we would say these flowers, more than one flower, these flowers are so pretty. If it was one flower, we would say this flower is so pretty. Okay, Linus blank, a wool blanket. Okay, we have singular, one person. Does Linus carry a wool blanket or Linus carries a wool blanket? Since it's one, we need carries. Linus carries. Notice our verb is going to end in the S. The robots blank through the space station. Well, our subject is plural, ends in S, so that tells me that the verb should not end in S. So the robots were, means they go fast, hum through the space station. The T-Rex blank across the swamp. Well, I have one, it's singular, it's a T-Rex, talking about a kind of dinosaur. And so since it's singular, then my verb has to end in S. The T-Rex stomps across the swamp. Okay, so go back. Again, I will have the PowerPoint in here with no narration. And so you can go back and look at these individual slides if you need to. Okay, you are now ready. After you watch this and look at some of the other videos in this module, you'll be ready to take the subject-verb agreement quiz.